Lieutenant Colonel Maya Castellanos adjusted her reading glasses and squinted at the intelligence reports scattered across her metal desk. The fluorescent lights in the operations center hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the cramped workspace she had occupied for the past 18 months. Around her, junior analysts typed quietly at their computers, processing satellite imagery and intercepted communications with the methodical precision of accountants rather than soldiers. Maya had grown accustomed to the sideways glances from the combat officers who passed through the intelligence section. To them, she was just another desk jockey, a career analyst who had never felt the weight of a rifle or heard bullets snap overhead. Her slight frame and wire-rimmed glasses only reinforced their assumptions. At 34, she looked more like a librarian than a soldier, her dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun that emphasized her bookish appearance. The morning briefing had been particularly frustrating. Major Brett Hawthorne had dismissed her assessment of enemy troop movements with a condescending wave of his hand, explaining to the room that field experience trumped computer analysis every time. The other officers had nodded along, their eyes already glazing over whenever Maya began speaking about tactical vulnerabilities or supply line disruptions. She returned to her reports, marking potential infiltration routes on a topographical map with precise red pen strokes. Each mark represented hours of careful analysis, cross-referencing weather patterns, local terrain features, and historical enemy behavior. But she knew her recommendations would likely end up buried in some filing cabinet, dismissed as the overcautious speculation of someone who had never been in real combat. The secure radio crackled to life across the operations center. Static filled the air before a voice broke through, tense and urgent. Captain Morrison from Delta Company was calling in from Checkpoint 7, his transmission fragmented by distance and interference. Maya looked up from her map, her pen hovering over an elevation marker as she listened to the broken communication. Movement in the Northern Valley. Large force. Request immediate backup. The duty officer scrambled to establish clearer contact, while Maya quietly pulled up the digital map of Checkpoint 7 on her computer. Her fingers moved quickly across the keyboard, overlaying recent intelligence reports with current troop positions. The pattern that emerged made her stomach tighten with recognition. Before we dive into the story, drop a comment and let us know what state you're watching from. Maybe you've witnessed situations where someone's expertise was overlooked in your community. Maya stood and walked to the duty officer station, her analysis printout in hand. She cleared her throat softly, waiting for a break in the radio chatter. The duty officer, Sergeant First Class Rodriguez, glanced at her with mild irritation, his attention focused on coordinating the response to Morrison's request. The enemy formation matches the pattern from the Kandahar offensive, Maya said quietly, offering her printout. They're not just moving through the valley. They're setting up a coordinated assault on multiple positions simultaneously. Rodriguez barely glanced at her analysis before shaking his head. We have got this handled, ma'am. Captain Morrison knows how to read terrain. He would not call for backup unless he needed it. But Maya could see what the field commanders could not. The satellite imagery from 48 hours ago showed fresh vehicle tracks converging on 3 separate locations around Checkpoint 7. The intercepted communications her team had decoded suggested a much larger operation than a simple probing attack. This was the beginning of something significant, and Checkpoint 7 was walking directly into a trap. She returned to her desk as the operations center buzzed with activity. Radio operators coordinated with field units while officers studied maps and issued orders. But none of them were looking at the complete picture that Maya could see so clearly in her mind. The enemy had spent weeks positioning forces for this moment, using the Northern Valley as a feint while their main assault elements moved into flanking positions under cover of darkness. Maya opened her secure computer terminal and began typing a detailed tactical assessment. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she documented every piece of intelligence that supported her conclusion. Radio intercepts, satellite imagery, weather reports, supply convoy schedules. Everything pointed to the same inevitable result. Checkpoint 7 and the rapid response team heading to assist them were about to be surrounded and outnumbered by a force 3 times their size. 20 minutes later, the first distress call arrived. The distress call cut through the operations center like a blade. Captain Morrison's voice, previously calm and professional, now carried the sharp edge of panic that every soldier recognized. His transmission broke through waves of static, each word punctuated by the distant crack of rifle fire. "We are taking heavy contact from multiple directions," Morrison reported, his breathing labored. "They were waiting for us. Estimate company-sized element, maybe larger. We need immediate extraction." Maya felt her chest tighten as she listened to the chaos unfolding exactly as she had predicted. Around the operations center, officers rushed between radio stations and map tables, their faces grim with the realization that a routine patrol had become a desperate fight for survival. The rapid response team that had rushed to assist Morrison was now trapped alongside him. Their rescue mission transformed into a mutual siege. Major Hawthorne burst through the operations center doors, his uniform still bearing dust from his morning training exercise. He surveyed the scene with the confidence of a man accustomed to solving problems through decisive action. His eyes swept past Maya without acknowledgement, focusing instead on the senior duty officer who was coordinating the emergency response. "What is our current assessment?" Sergeant Rodriguez asked Hawthorne, his voice carrying the authority of command despite the obvious strain of the situation. Rodriguez consulted his notes, glancing nervously between his radio operators and the major. "2 squads pinned down at Checkpoint 7, sir. Enemy force estimated at company strength, possibly reinforced. They have high ground advantage and prepare positions. Our quick reaction force is trapped with the original patrol." Hawthorne nodded grimly, studying the tactical display that showed friendly positions as blue dots surrounded by estimated enemy locations marked in red. The digital representation looked clean and manageable, but Maya knew the reality on the ground was far more chaotic and dangerous than any computer screen could convey. Maya quietly approached the tactical display, her printed intelligence assessment still clutched in her hand. She had spent the last 20 minutes updating her analysis with real-time battlefield reports, cross-referencing known enemy tactics with current terrain features. The picture that emerged was even more troubling than her initial assessment had suggested. "Major Hawthorne," she said softly, waiting for him to acknowledge her presence. "I believe this engagement is part of a larger coordinated assault. My analysis indicates enemy forces have been positioning for a multi-axis attack designed to draw our response units into predetermined kill zones." Hawthorne glanced at her with barely concealed irritation, his attention clearly focused on more immediate concerns than intelligent speculation. "Right now we have soldiers in contact, Lieutenant Colonel. We can analyze enemy intentions after we get our people home safe." But Maya pressed forward, knowing that every minute of delay would cost lives. "The enemy has established overlapping fields of fire from elevated positions," she continued, pointing to specific locations on the digital map. "They're using the checkpoint as bait to draw our forces into a prepared ambush site. A conventional rescue attempt will result in additional casualties without achieving extraction." The major studied her for a moment, his expression suggesting he was weighing the validity of her assessment against the urgency of the tactical situation. Around them, radio operators continued receiving fragmented reports from the trapped units, each transmission painting a grimmer picture of their circumstances. "What do you recommend, then, Castellanos?" Hawthorne asked, his tone suggesting he expected a typical analyst response focused on gathering more intelligence rather than taking action. Maya felt the weight of every eye in the operations center as she stepped closer to the tactical display. For months, she had watched from the sidelines as field commanders made decisions based on incomplete information, their battlefield experience unable to compensate for the broader tactical picture that only comprehensive intelligence could provide. Now, with soldiers dying in real time, the gap between analysis and action had never been more critical. "We need to approach this as a counter-ambush operation rather than a rescue mission," Maya said, her voice gaining strength as she outlined her tactical assessment. The enemy expects us to reinforce along predictable routes. Instead, we should identify their supporting positions and neutralize them systematically before attempting extraction. Rodriguez looked skeptical, his years of field experience making him naturally suspicious of theoretical solutions to concrete problems. That sounds like it would take hours to plan and execute, ma'am. Those soldiers do not have hours. Maya pointed to specific terrain features on the map, her finger tracing potential approach routes that avoided the obvious avenues of advance the enemy had undoubtedly prepared for. The infiltration routes she identified required detailed knowledge of local topography, combined with an understanding of enemy doctrine that went far beyond standard intelligence training. Not if we execute it correctly, Maya replied, her confidence growing as she visualized the tactical solution. I can identify 3 specific positions that anchor their entire defensive scheme. Neutralize those positions simultaneously, and their ambush collapses into a fighting withdrawal. Our trapped units can then extract under covering fire while the enemy reorganizes. The radio crackled again, Morrison's voice now hoarse with desperation. We are running low on ammunition. Multiple wounded. Need extraction now. Hawthorne looked at Maya, then at the tactical display, then back at Maya again. His expression suggested a man caught between conventional military wisdom and an unconventional solution that might represent their only hope of bringing everyone home alive. Major Hawthorne turned away from Maya, his decision already made before she finished speaking. He strode to the radio station where Rodriguez was coordinating with battalion headquarters, his boots echoing sharply against the concrete floor. Maya watched as he gestured toward the tactical display, outlining a conventional rescue operation that would send additional forces directly into the same trap that had already claimed 2 units. We will establish a base of fire from grid coordinates 7 for Alpha and advance with mechanized support, Hawthorne explained to the radio operator. Once we suppress their positions, the trapped units can withdraw under covering fire. Maya felt her stomach sink as she recognized the tactical approach. She had seen this exact scenario analyzed in after-action reports from 3 previous engagements where similar rescue attempts had resulted in catastrophic casualties. The enemy had demonstrated remarkable consistency in their ambush tactics, using the psychological pressure of trapped friendly forces to draw rescue units into carefully prepared killing fields. She approached Rodriguez quietly, holding her intelligence summary at the ready. Sergeant, the enemy has used this exact tactical approach in previous engagements, Maya said, keeping her voice low to avoid challenging Hawthorne directly in front of the junior enlisted personnel. The base of fire position he selected is pre-sighted by enemy mortars. They want us to establish there. Rodriguez glanced nervously between Maya and the major, clearly uncomfortable with the conflicting guidance from 2 superior officers. Ma'am, the major has operational control of this response. My orders are to coordinate his requests with higher headquarters. Maya understood the sergeant's position, but she also understood that following those orders would likely result in a disaster that would cost dozens of lives. She watched as Hawthorne continued outlining his plan, his confidence unwavering despite the mounting evidence that conventional tactics were exactly what the enemy anticipated. The secure phone rang, its harsh electronic tone cutting through the tension in the operations center. Rodriguez answered immediately, his voice crisp and professional as he provided a situational update to battalion headquarters. Maya listened to his summary, noting how the complexity of her intelligence assessment was reduced to simple enemy contact and casualty figures. After Rodriguez completed his call, Maya made one final attempt to present her analysis. Major Hawthorne, she said, approaching him with her printed intelligence summary extended. I have documented evidence of enemy tactical patterns from the last 6 months. This engagement follows their established methodology exactly. If we respond predictably, we will lose significantly more personnel. Hawthorne accepted her papers, but barely glanced at the detailed analysis before setting them aside. Castellanos, I appreciate your concern, but battlefield situations require decisive action, not extended analysis. Those soldiers need help now, and we're going to provide it using proven tactical doctrine. Maya watched in frustration as the major continued coordinating his rescue operation, each element of his plan perfectly aligned with what she knew the enemy expected. The mechanized units would advance along the most obvious approach routes. The base of fire would establish exactly where enemy mortars had already calculated range and deflection. The timing would allow enemy reinforcements to arrive and complete their encirclement before the rescue force could withdraw. Captain Rachel Thornfield, the battalion intelligence officer, entered the operations center carrying an armload of updated situation reports. Maya had worked with Thornfield on several intelligence assessments, and the younger officer had always shown respect for Maya's analytical capabilities even when field commanders dismissed her conclusions. "Rachel," Maya said quietly, intercepting the captain before she could report to Hawthorne, "I need you to review my tactical assessment of this engagement. The enemy pattern matches previous ambush operations exactly." Thornfield accepted Maya's analysis and quickly scanned the key points, her expression growing increasingly concerned as she absorbed the implications. "This suggests a much larger enemy force than initially estimated," Rachel observed, looking up at Maya with obvious worry. "If your assessment is correct, a conventional rescue attempt could result in significant casualties." Maya nodded grimly, watching as radio operators relayed Hawthorne's orders to the units preparing for the rescue mission. Mechanized vehicles were already moving into position, their crews confident in their ability to provide the firepower and mobility necessary to extract the trapped soldiers. None of them realized they were driving directly into a tactical situation designed specifically to destroy mechanized rescue forces. "The enemy has demonstrated remarkable patience in previous operations," Maya explained to Thornfield. "They allow initial contact to develop naturally, then use our predictable response patterns to draw additional forces into prepared positions. By the time we realize the scope of their operation, we have committed forces piecemeal into a comprehensive ambush." Thornfield studied the tactical display, comparing Maya's assessment with the current disposition of friendly forces. Her training as an intelligence officer allowed her to appreciate the sophisticated nature of the enemy's tactical approach, even if her limited field experience prevented her from fully grasping the implications for the soldiers about to execute the rescue mission. "Have you presented this to Major Hawthorne?" Rachel asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Maya gestured toward the papers lying unread on Hawthorne's desk. "He believes decisive action is more important than extended analysis. I understand his position, but I also understand that decisive action based on flawed assumptions leads to decisive failure." The radio crackled again, Morrison's voice now barely audible through increasing static and background noise. "Enemy mortars adjusting fire. We have multiple casualties and are running critically low on ammunition. Time is running out." Maya felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders as she watched the rescue operation unfold exactly as she had predicted it would. Every element of Hawthorne's plan was tactically sound according to conventional military doctrine, but conventional doctrine assumed an enemy that would react predictably to superior firepower and mobility. This enemy had studied American tactical responses and designed their operations specifically to exploit the predictability of those responses. The first explosion came exactly 23 minutes after the mechanized rescue force departed the main base. Maya had been watching the clock, her stomach knotting tighter with each passing minute as the convoy moved along the predictable route toward Checkpoint 7. The blast echoed across the valley, followed immediately by the sharp crack of small arms fire and the deeper rumble of heavy machine guns. Rodriguez pressed his headset closer to his ear, his face pale as fragmented radio transmissions filled the operations center with chaos. The lead Bradley had struck an improvised explosive device exactly where Maya's analysis had indicated the enemy would place obstacles to channelize the rescue force into predetermined kill zones. Bravo 6, This is Bravo 2-6, came the voice of Lieutenant Kevin Nakamura, the mechanized unit commander. We have an IED strike on the lead vehicle. Driver is injured. Vehicle is immobilized. Taking effective fire from multiple positions. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of predictable disaster settling around her like a suffocating blanket. Every element of the enemy's response was unfolding exactly as their previous operations had demonstrated they would respond. The IED was not designed to destroy the rescue force, but to stop it in a carefully selected location where overlapping fields of fire would maximize casualties. Major Hawthorne grabbed the radio microphone, his voice tight with controlled urgency as he attempted to coordinate the increasingly desperate situation. Bravo 2-6, can you bypass the disabled vehicle and continue mission? Negative, Bravo 6, Nakamura replied, his transmission interrupted by the sharp whistle of incoming mortar rounds. We are taking accurate indirect fire. Enemy has pre-planned targets for this entire grid square. We need to establish a defensive perimeter and call for additional support. Maya approached the tactical display, where Hawthorne was studying friendly positions marked in blue against estimated enemy locations shown in red. The pattern was exactly what her intelligence assessment had predicted, but now the theoretical analysis had become a desperate reality, with American soldiers trapped in multiple locations across the valley. Major, Maya said quietly, positioning herself where only Hawthorne could hear her words. The enemy is executing a deliberate isolation strategy. They will continue to draw our forces into prepared positions until we commit our entire reserve. Then they will execute their primary assault on the main base. Hawthorne glanced at her with obvious frustration, his attention divided between her assessment and the immediate tactical crisis unfolding on his radios. Right now, I have soldiers under fire in 3 separate locations, Castellanos. I need solutions, not strategic analysis. But Maya pressed forward, knowing that each additional commitment of forces would only compound the tactical disaster. Sir, the solution requires understanding their complete operational plan. They are not trying to defeat our individual units. They're trying to fix our entire force in disadvantageous positions before executing their main effort. Captain Thornfield appeared at Maya's shoulder, her own analysis papers in hand, and her expression grim with recognition. She had been monitoring radio traffic and cross-referencing enemy activity with historical patterns, reaching conclusions that supported Maya's broader assessment of the tactical situation. Major Hawthorne, Rachel said, her voice carrying the authority of an intelligence officer presenting crucial battlefield information. Lieutenant Colonel Castellanos is correct about the enemy operational approach. They have used this exact methodology in 3 previous engagements, and in each case, conventional rescue operations resulted in significant American casualties. Hawthorne studied both women, his expression suggesting a man caught between immediate tactical pressures and strategic implications he was only beginning to comprehend. Around them, radio operators continued coordinating with the trapped units, while additional forces prepared for deployment into what Maya knew was an increasingly complex ambush. What are you recommending? He asked, his tone indicating genuine interest despite his obvious frustration with the deteriorating situation. Maya stepped closer to the tactical display, her finger tracing specific terrain features that most officers would overlook, but that her detailed analysis had identified as crucial to the enemy's defensive scheme. We need to identify and neutralize their command and observation posts, she explained. They are controlling this entire engagement from elevated positions that allow them to coordinate fires and adjust their defensive plan based on our responses. Thornfield consulted her notes, adding supporting details to Maya's assessment. The enemy commander has positioned himself to observe our entire area of operations, she said. He is making tactical adjustments in real time based on direct observation of our force movements. Until we eliminate his ability to observe and coordinate, every unit we commit will be walking into a planned response. The radio crackled with another urgent transmission from Morrison at Checkpoint 7. Enemy forces are probing our perimeter. We have taken additional casualties and are down to less than 30% ammunition. Request immediate resupply or extraction. Simultaneously, Lieutenant Nakamura reported from the trapped mechanized unit. Bravo 6, we have enemy infantry maneuvering to our flanks. They are attempting to isolate us from potential withdrawal routes. We need immediate support or we will be completely surrounded. Maya watched Major Hawthorne process the tactical information, his trained mind recognizing that conventional responses were failing against an enemy that had anticipated and prepared for those exact responses. The weight of command was visible in his expression as he realized that American soldiers were dying because the enemy understood American tactical doctrine better than the Americans understood enemy capabilities. "Show me these observation posts," Hawthorne said finally, his voice indicating a man ready to consider unconventional solutions to an increasingly desperate problem. Maya felt a surge of hope as she began outlining specific locations where enemy observers were coordinating the complex ambush. For the first time since the crisis began, someone with operational authority was listening to her complete assessment rather than dismissing it as academic speculation. The lives of 3 trapped American units might depend on whether she could translate her intelligence analysis into actionable tactical solutions. Maya pointed to 3 specific locations on the tactical display, her finger moving with the precision of someone who had spent countless hours studying topographical maps and satellite imagery. Each position she identified commanded overlapping fields of observation across the entire valley, allowing enemy spotters to coordinate the complex ambush with devastating effectiveness. "Here, and here," she said, marking elevation 435, the radio tower complex, and the abandoned village overlooking the main supply route. These positions form a triangular observation network that gives them complete tactical control over our area of operations. The enemy commander can see every movement we make and adjust his fires accordingly. Major Hawthorne studied the locations she indicated, his experience recognizing the tactical significance of the elevated terrain features. Each position was naturally defensible, offered excellent observation, and would require significant resources to assault directly. More importantly, they were positioned to provide mutual support, making conventional attacks extremely costly. "How do you know these are command positions rather than just defensive positions?" Hawthorne asked, his tone suggesting genuine interest in her analysis rather than skeptical dismissal. Maya pulled up satellite imagery on her computer terminal, zooming in on each location to highlight specific details that supported her assessment. "Communications equipment visible at the radio tower," she explained, pointing to small structures that would be invisible to someone without her analytical training. "Vehicle tracks leading to concealed positions at elevation 435, indicating regular resupply operations. And thermal signatures from the village, suggesting a much larger garrison than would be necessary for simple defensive purposes." Captain Thornfield added her own observations, having spent the last hour cross-referencing Maya's analysis with intercepted enemy communications. "We have been monitoring radio traffic patterns," she said, consulting her notes. "The timing of enemy tactical adjustments corresponds exactly with our force movements, suggesting real-time observation and coordination from these elevated positions." The radio interrupted their planning with another desperate transmission from Lieutenant Nakamura. "Bravo 6, enemy forces have established blocking positions on our withdrawal route. We are effectively surrounded and taking casualties from accurate sniper fire. Request immediate close air support." Maya felt the urgency building as she realized that conventional military responses were not only failing, but actively contributing to the enemy's tactical success. Every American reaction was being observed, analyzed, and countered by an enemy commander who understood their doctrine better than they understood his capabilities. "Sir," Maya said, her voice carrying new authority as Hawthorne began to rely on her assessment. "Close air support will not be effective against these positions because they are utilizing natural and constructed cover specifically designed to defeat air attacks. The enemy has studied our standard procedures and positioned their forces to minimize the effectiveness of our technological advantages. Hawthorne looked at the tactical display, then at Maya, then back at the display again. His expression suggested a commander wrestling with the realization that his training and experience were insufficient to address the tactical complexity of the current situation. The enemy had effectively neutralized American advantages in firepower and mobility by forcing engagements in terrain and circumstances of their choosing. "What do you recommend?" he asked, his question indicating genuine respect for Maya's analytical capabilities rather than polite dismissal of an academic perspective. Maya moved to a detailed topographical map, her finger tracing infiltration routes that avoided the obvious approaches the enemy had undoubtedly prepared for. "We need to approach this as a special operations mission rather than a conventional rescue operation," she explained. "Small teams using concealment and stealth to neutralize the observation posts simultaneously, eliminating their coordination capability before they can adjust their defensive plan." The approach she outlined required intimate knowledge of local terrain features combined with an understanding of special operations infiltration techniques that went far beyond standard intelligence training. Her recommendations demonstrated familiarity with tactical procedures that most analysts would never encounter in their routine duties. Thornfield looked at Maya with obvious curiosity, recognizing that her tactical knowledge extended well beyond what would be expected from someone with her apparent military occupation specialty. The infiltration routes Maya identified required the kind of detailed terrain analysis typically associated with special operations mission planning rather than routine intelligence assessment. Maya continued outlining her tactical approach, describing specific techniques for approaching defended positions without detection and coordinating simultaneous attacks across multiple objectives. Her language shifted subtly from analytical assessment to operational planning, suggesting practical experience with the procedures she was recommending. "The key is timing," Maya explained, her voice taking on the confidence of someone who had executed similar operations rather than simply studied them. "All three positions must be neutralized within a 15-minute window to prevent the surviving observers from adjusting their defensive plan and calling for reinforcements." Major Hawthorne studied Maya with growing interest, beginning to recognize that her recommendations demonstrated practical knowledge that extended beyond theoretical analysis. The tactical solutions she proposed were sophisticated and detailed, suggesting familiarity with special operations procedures that few intelligence analysts would possess. "Castellanos," Hawthorne said slowly, his tone indicating a man beginning to reconsider his assumptions about the quiet analyst who had been working in his operations center for 18 months. "Where exactly did you develop this level of tactical expertise?" Maya felt the weight of concealed history pressing against her carefully maintained cover story. For 18 months, she had successfully projected the image of a career intelligence analyst, avoiding the attention and expectations that came with her actual military background. But with American soldiers dying in real time, maintaining her anonymity had become less important than saving lives. The radio crackled again with Morrison's increasingly desperate voice. "We are down to our last magazine per man. Enemy forces are massing for what appears to be a final assault. If help does not arrive in the next 30 minutes, we will be overrun." Maya looked at the tactical display, then at Major Hawthorne, then at the radio where American soldiers were reporting their final preparations for what might be their last stand. The moment had arrived where academic analysis needed to become operational reality and theoretical knowledge needed to transform into life-saving action. Maya stared at the tactical display, her mind automatically calculating approach routes, timing sequences, and coordination requirements with the precision of someone who had planned and executed similar operations under combat conditions. The weight of concealment pressed against her as she realized that saving the trapped soldiers would require revealing capabilities she had spent 18 months carefully hiding. The secure telephone rang again, its harsh tone cutting through the tension as Rodriguez answered with increasing urgency. Battalion headquarters was demanding regular updates on the deteriorating situation, their questions becoming more pointed as casualties mounted and conventional rescue attempts continued to fail. "Sir," Rodriguez reported to Hawthorne after completing the call, "Battalion is requesting our assessment of enemy strength and our recommended course of action. They are considering committing the entire reserve company to a large-scale rescue operation." Maya felt her chest tighten as she recognized the tactical implications. A large-scale conventional assault would play directly into the enemy's strategic plan, providing them with the decisive engagement they had been orchestrating since the initial contact at Checkpoint 7. The enemy commander had demonstrated remarkable patience and sophistication, using small engagements to draw American forces into increasingly disadvantageous positions. "Major," Maya said quietly, approaching Hawthorne with the urgency of someone who understood that time was running out for multiple trapped units. "A large-scale assault will result in catastrophic casualties. The enemy has prepared this entire valley as a killing field designed specifically to destroy conventional rescue operations." Hawthorne studied her with the focused attention of a commander who had begun to recognize that unconventional problems required unconventional solutions. His earlier dismissal of her analysis had been replaced by genuine respect for her tactical insights, especially as those insights had proven accurate while conventional approaches had failed repeatedly. "You keep talking about special operations approaches," he said, his tone carrying new weight as he began to probe deeper into Maya's background. "Most intelligence analysts do not have detailed knowledge of infiltration techniques and coordinated assault procedures. Where exactly did you learn to plan operations like this?" Captain Thornfield looked between Maya and Hawthorne, clearly sensing the undercurrent of revelation that was building in their conversation. She had worked closely with Maya on intelligence assessments for months, but the tactical expertise Maya was demonstrating went far beyond anything she had previously displayed in their routine analytical work. Maya felt the moment of truth approaching as rapidly as the enemy assault that would overwhelm Morrison's position within the hour. Her carefully constructed identity as a quiet intelligence analyst was about to collide with the operational reality that American soldiers needed her actual capabilities rather than her assumed limitations. "Sir," Maya began, her voice carrying new authority as she prepared to reveal information that would fundamentally change how everyone in the operations center viewed her role and capabilities. "My military occupational specialty listing is not entirely accurate. Before my current assignment, I spent 8 years with the 75th Ranger Regiment, including 3 years with the Regimental Reconnaissance Company conducting direct action and special reconnaissance missions." The silence that followed her revelation was broken only by the constant chatter of radio transmissions from the trapped units. Hawthorne stared at Maya with the expression of someone whose fundamental assumptions about a subordinate had just been completely overturned. Thornfield looked equally stunned, suddenly understanding why Maya's tactical analysis had been so sophisticated and detailed. 8 years with Rangers," Hawthorne repeated slowly, his tone suggesting a man processing information that explained months of observations that had not quite made sense, including special operations experience with the reconnaissance company. Maya nodded, feeling both relief and apprehension as her true background became known. She had requested the intelligence analyst assignment specifically to avoid the high-profile missions and constant deployments that came with special operations units. But the tactical situation developing in real time had made her anonymity less important than her actual capabilities. "My last deployment was conducting direct action missions against high-value targets in similar terrain," Maya explained, her professional demeanor shifting subtly as she acknowledged her operational background. "I have planned and executed night infiltration missions against defended positions using the exact techniques required to neutralize those observation posts." Rodriguez looked at Maya with obvious amazement, suddenly understanding why her intelligence assessments had always been so tactically sophisticated and operationally focused. The quiet analyst who had worked anonymously in their operations center for 18 months was actually a decorated special operations veteran with extensive combat experience. The radio crackled with another transmission from Lieutenant Nakamura, his voice now hoarse with exhaustion and stress. Bravo 6, we have wounded who need immediate medical evacuation. Enemy forces are tightening their perimeter, and our ammunition situation is becoming critical. We need extraction now. Maya looked at the tactical display with new authority, her analysis shifting from theoretical assessment to operational planning as she began to outline the specific mission that could save all 3 trapped units simultaneously. Her approach required coordination, timing, and tactical expertise that few officers possessed, but it represented the only realistic chance of preventing a catastrophic defeat. Major Hawthorne studied Maya with the expression of a commander who had just discovered that his most valuable asset had been hiding in plain sight for over a year. The tactical solution to the crisis was standing right in front of him, disguised as a quiet intelligence analyst who had been trying to avoid exactly this kind of high-stakes operational responsibility. Castellanos, he said, his voice carrying the weight of command decision and growing desperation as time ran out for the trapped soldiers. I need you to stop thinking like an analyst and start thinking like a ranger. Those soldiers need someone who can plan and coordinate the kind of mission you're describing. Maya felt the familiar weight of operational responsibility settling on her shoulders as she realized that her careful anonymity had just ended permanently. The quiet intelligence analyst role that had provided 18 months of relative peace was about to be replaced by the high-stakes special operations mission planning that had defined the first 8 years of her military career. Maya moved to the tactical display with the fluid confidence of someone transitioning from theoretical analysis to operational command. Her entire demeanor shifted as she shed the careful anonymity that had defined her role for 18 months, replaced by the focused intensity that had made her one of the most effective mission planners in the Regimental Reconnaissance Company. We need 3 teams, she said, her voice carrying new authority as she began outlining the complex operation required to save the trapped units. Each team will infiltrate to within striking distance of their assigned observation post, then execute coordinated assaults at precisely 0 to 100 hours to eliminate enemy command and control capability. Major Hawthorne watched Maya transform before his eyes, recognizing the emergence of tactical expertise that had been carefully concealed beneath her analyst persona. Her recommendations shifted from academic assessment to detailed operational planning with the precision of someone who had executed similar missions under combat conditions. What resources do you need? Hawthorne asked, his tone indicating complete confidence in Maya's tactical assessment despite having discovered her true background only minutes earlier. Maya consulted the base personnel roster, mentally cataloging available assets and comparing them with mission requirements. She needed soldiers with specific skills and experience levels, equipment that might not be immediately available, and coordination support that would require revealing operational details to personnel who had been excluded from the planning process. I need 9 volunteers with special operations or infantry experience, Maya explained, her finger moving across the tactical display as she identified specific approach routes and assault positions. Preferably soldiers who have conducted night infiltration missions and are comfortable operating in small teams without direct supervision. Captain Thornfield stepped forward, her expression indicating someone who wanted to contribute to the mission despite her limited field experience. Ma'am, I can coordinate with the personnel office to identify soldiers with the required backgrounds. We have several former infantry soldiers in support positions who might have a necessary experience. Maya nodded, appreciating Thornfield's willingness to support the mission even though her role would necessarily be limited to coordination rather than direct participation. The success of the operation would depend on precise timing and flawless execution, requiring every participant to understand their role and execute it without hesitation. The equipment requirements were equally specific. Maya needed night vision devices, suppressed weapons, tactical communications gear, and specialized climbing equipment for approaching the elevated observation posts. Each item was critical to mission success, and the absence of any single piece of equipment could result in mission failure and additional casualties. Rodriguez approached Maya with obvious respect for her newly revealed expertise, his earlier casual familiarity replaced by the professional deference accorded to experienced special operations personnel. "Ma'am, I can coordinate with the supply sergeant to ensure your equipment requirements are available within 30 minutes. Maya felt the familiar rhythm of mission planning beginning to accelerate as her requests were processed and resources became available. Around the operations center, personnel who had viewed her as a quiet analyst were now responding to her tactical expertise with the urgency and respect typically reserved for experienced combat leaders. The radio crackled with Morrison's increasingly desperate reports from Checkpoint 7. Enemy forces are conducting final preparations for assault. We can hear vehicle movement and troop formations assembling just outside our perimeter. Request immediate extraction or we will be overrun within the hour." Maya studied the timing requirements, calculating infiltration routes and coordination sequences with the mental precision that had made her mission planning legendary within the Ranger Regiment. Every element of the operation had to execute flawlessly within narrow time windows, and any delay or failure would result in the loss of all 3 trapped units. "Sir," Maya said to Hawthorne, her tone carrying the weight of operational urgency as she outlined the critical timeline. "We need to launch the infiltration teams within 15 minutes to reach assault positions before the enemy completes their final preparations. Once they begin their coordinated assault on our trapped units, the tactical situation will become significantly more complex." Hawthorne nodded, understanding that the window of opportunity was closing rapidly as the enemy prepared to transition from containment operations to decisive assault. Maya's mission represented the only realistic chance of preventing a catastrophic defeat, but required resources and coordination that had never been tested under actual combat conditions. The first volunteers began arriving in the operations center, drawn from various support units, but carrying the confident bearing of soldiers with infantry and special operations backgrounds. Maya studied each arrival, mentally assessing their capabilities and assigning them to specific teams based on their experience and physical fitness. Sergeant First Class Dmitry Kozlov stepped forward, his expression indicating someone eager to participate in high-stakes operations after months of routine garrison duties. "Ma'am, I served 2 deployments with the 82nd Airborne conducting direct action missions. I volunteer for whatever position you need filled." Maya recognized the type of soldier she needed, experienced enough to operate independently, but flexible enough to adapt to rapidly changing tactical situations. Kozlov's background suggested exactly the kind of infantry experience that would be crucial for approaching defended positions under cover of darkness. "You will lead Team Alpha targeting the radio tower complex," Maya told Kozlov, pointing to the most technically challenging of the 3 objectives. "Your team will need to neutralize enemy communications capability while avoiding detection by adjacent positions." Additional volunteers continued arriving as word spread through the base that a complex rescue operation was being planned by the quiet intelligence analyst who had just revealed herself to be a decorated Ranger veteran. Maya assigned each soldier to specific teams based on their backgrounds and the technical requirements of their assigned objectives. The equipment began arriving as Rodriguez coordinated with supply personnel who understood that mission success depended on providing exactly what Maya had requested within the narrow time constraints she had specified. Night vision devices, suppressed M4 rifles, tactical communications gear, everything necessary for conducting coordinated night infiltration operations. Maya felt the familiar surge of focused energy that accompanied the final preparations for high-stakes special operations missions. The careful planning and detailed coordination were about to transform into violent action that would either save 3 trapped American units or result in even greater casualties if any element of her plan failed to execute precisely as designed. Maya gathered the 9 volunteers around the tactical display, her briefing beginning with the methodical precision that had characterized her mission planning during 8 years of special operations. Each soldier studied the terrain features and assault objectives with the focused intensity of men who understood that their lives and the lives of 3 trapped units depended on flawless execution. "Listen carefully, because we will only have time for one briefing," Maya said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had led similar missions under combat conditions. "The enemy has established 3 observation posts that control their entire defensive scheme. Teams Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie will infiltrate simultaneously to neutralize these positions at exactly 0200 hours. Sergeant Kozlov nodded as Maya outlined Team Alpha's mission against the radio tower complex, the most technically challenging objective that required neutralizing enemy communications while avoiding detection by adjacent positions. His experience with the 82nd Airborne had included similar night infiltration missions, though none with stakes as high as the current operation. Staff Sergeant Marcus Brennan, a former Marine Scout sniper, accepted leadership of Team Bravo with the quiet confidence of someone accustomed to operating in small units under difficult conditions. His objective was Elevation 435, a naturally defensible position that commanded observation over the entire valley and would require precise coordination to assault successfully. Team Charlie, targeting the abandoned village, fell to Sergeant Elena Vasquez, whose background with Army Rangers qualified her for the most complex infiltration route through enemy-controlled terrain. Maya recognized in Vasquez the kind of tactical flexibility and aggressive leadership that would be crucial for adapting to unexpected developments during the mission. Each team received detailed route cards showing infiltration paths that avoided known enemy positions while providing concealment from observation. Maya had spent precious minutes calculating approach routes that balanced speed against stealth, ensuring each team could reach assault positions without compromising the overall mission timeline. The weapons and equipment distribution proceeded with military efficiency as each soldier received night vision devices, suppressed M4 carbines, tactical radios, and specialized equipment appropriate to their assigned objectives. Maya personally inspected each piece of gear, understanding that equipment failure during the infiltration could result in mission compromise and additional casualties. Communications procedures received particular attention as Maya outlined the complex coordination requirements that would synchronize 3 simultaneous assaults across several kilometers of enemy-controlled terrain. Each team leader received specific call signs, backup frequencies, and contingency procedures for maintaining coordination if primary communications failed. 0200 hours is non-negotiable, Maya emphasized, her tone carrying the weight of operational urgency. If any team is not in position by 0055 hours, they will abort their assault and withdraw to avoid compromising the other teams. Success depends on eliminating all 3 positions within a 15-minute window. The radio interrupted their briefing with another desperate transmission from Lieutenant Nakamura, whose mechanized unit had been trapped for over 3 hours. Enemy forces have completed their encirclement and are conducting final preparations for assault. We have multiple wounded and are critically low on ammunition across all weapon systems. Maya felt the pressure building as she realized that the enemy timeline was accelerating faster than her mission preparation. The sophisticated enemy commander had demonstrated remarkable patience throughout the day, but his forces were now positioned to execute the decisive phase of their operation while her rescue mission was still in final preparation. Major Hawthorne approached Maya with obvious concern, his expression reflecting the weight of command responsibility as he balanced mission urgency against thorough preparation. "Castellanos, the enemy appears to be accelerating their timeline. Can your teams execute successfully with abbreviated preparation time?" Maya studied the tactical display, calculating the minimum time required for infiltration against the maximum time available before the trapped units would be overrun. The margin for error was disappearing rapidly as enemy forces positioned themselves for coordinated assaults that would overwhelm the isolated American positions through concentrated firepower and superior numbers. Sir, we can compress the infiltration timeline by 10 minutes if teams move immediately upon completion of this briefing, Maya replied, her assessment balancing mission requirements against tactical reality. However, that reduces our margin for error and increases the likelihood of detection during approach. The volunteers exchanged glances, understanding that abbreviated preparation time increased mission risk but represented the only realistic chance of saving the trapped soldiers. Each man had volunteered, knowing that the operation carried significant personal risk, but the urgency of the situation had eliminated the luxury of extended planning and rehearsal. Captain Thornfield monitored radio communications from all 3 trapped units, her expression growing increasingly grim as casualty reports mounted and ammunition supplies dwindled. The tactical situation was deteriorating rapidly as enemy forces completed their preparations for what appeared to be coordinated final assaults designed to overwhelm isolated American positions. Ma'am, Thornfield reported to Maya. Monitoring indicates enemy forces at all 3 locations are conducting final coordination before beginning their assault. Based on communication patterns, we estimate they will begin their final attack within 30 minutes. Maya made the command decision that would determine whether her mission saved lives or resulted in additional casualties. Teams will launch immediately upon completion of equipment checks, she announced, her voice carrying the finality of someone who understood that hesitation would result in catastrophic failure. The 9 volunteers began their final preparations with the focused urgency of soldiers who understood that American lives depended on their ability to execute a complex mission under extreme time pressure. Each team conducted rapid equipment checks, verified radio frequencies, and reviewed their assigned routes one final time before departing on infiltration missions that would determine the outcome of the entire engagement. Maya watched her teams depart into the darkness, carrying with them the hopes of 3 trapped units and the weight of a tactical situation that had spiraled far beyond conventional military responses. The quiet intelligence analyst who had spent 18 months avoiding operational responsibility had just committed 9 soldiers to a high-stakes special operations mission that would either validate her tactical expertise or result in catastrophic failure that would haunt her for the rest of her military career. Maya monitored 3 separate radio frequencies simultaneously, tracking the progress of her infiltration teams as they moved through enemy-controlled terrain toward their assigned objectives. The operations center had fallen into tense silence, broken only by periodic status reports from team leaders and increasingly desperate transmissions from the trapped units they were attempting to save. Team Alpha, led by Sergeant Kozlov, reported reaching the first checkpoint on their route to the radio tower complex. Their approach required navigating through a drainage system that provided concealment, but significantly slowed their movement toward the most technically challenging objective. Maya watched their progress on the tactical display, calculating timing margins that grew thinner with each passing minute. Team Bravo encountered their first significant obstacle when Staff Sergeant Brennan reported enemy patrols near their planned infiltration route to elevation 435. The team was forced to detour around the patrol, adding precious minutes to their timeline, while enemy forces at all 3 trap locations completed final preparations for coordinated assault operations. Charlie Team, moving toward the abandoned village under Sergeant Vasquez's leadership, made the best initial progress through terrain that provided natural concealment but required precise navigation to avoid enemy positions. Maya listened to their whispered radio reports, recognizing the professional competence that had made Vasquez an effective ranger during previous deployments. Major Hawthorne stood beside Maya, his expression reflecting the weight of command responsibility as he watched her coordinate a complex special operations mission that represented their only realistic chance of preventing catastrophic defeat. The conventional rescue attempts had failed completely, leaving Maya's unconventional approach as the sole remaining option for saving 3 trapped American units. The secure telephone rang with increasing frequency as battalion headquarters demanded updates on the deteriorating tactical situation. Rodriguez fielded each call with professional composure, but Maya could see the strain building as he attempted to explain a special operations mission being conducted by personnel who were not officially qualified for such assignments. "Sir," Rodriguez reported to Hawthorne after the latest call from headquarters, "Battalion is requesting detailed information about our current rescue operation. They are expressing concern about committing additional resources without understanding our tactical approach." Maya understood the bureaucratic complexity of her situation. Her mission was being conducted under emergency authority that might not survive detailed scrutiny from higher headquarters, especially since she was officially an intelligence analyst rather than a qualified special operations mission commander. Success would validate her actions, but failure would result in career-ending consequences for everyone involved. Radio traffic from Morrison at Checkpoint 7 became increasingly urgent as enemy forces completed their final positioning for what appeared to be coordinated assaults designed to overwhelm the isolated American positions through concentrated firepower and superior numbers. His reports indicated enemy vehicle movement and troop concentrations that suggested imminent attack. "We are observing enemy forces massing for final assault," Morrison reported, his voice tight with controlled tension. "Multiple rocket-propelled Grenade teams have been positioned around our perimeter. Request immediate extraction or close air support before they begin their coordinated attack." Maya monitored her tactical display, tracking the convergence of multiple timelines that would determine mission success or failure within the next 30 minutes. Her infiltration teams needed time to reach assault positions, but the trapped units were running out of time as enemy forces prepared to execute coordinated attacks that would overwhelm their defensive capabilities. Team Alpha reported reaching the final approach to the radio tower complex, but Kozlov identified additional enemy positions that had not appeared in the original intelligence assessment. His team would need extra time to bypass these positions without compromising their mission, time that the overall tactical situation might not allow. "Charlie 6, this is Alpha Leader," Kozlov transmitted, his voice barely audible through electronic encryption. "We have additional enemy positions at our objective. Request permission to adjust our approach route to maintain operational security." Maya faced the kind of real-time tactical decision that defines Special Operations Mission Command. Allowing Team Alpha additional time increased their chances of successful assault, but reduced the coordination margin with the other teams and potentially allowed enemy forces to overrun the trapped units before the observation posts could be neutralized. "Alpha Leader, approved for route adjustment," Maya replied, accepting the increased mission complexity in exchange for better assault positioning. "Maintain communication schedule and advise when you reach final assault position." Team Bravo encountered their own challenges as Staff Sergeant Brennan reported that Elevation 435 was more heavily defended than intelligence had indicated. Enemy positions included crew-served weapons that commanded all obvious approach routes, requiring creative tactical solutions that would test his Marine Scout sniper training under extreme pressure. The radio crackled with another transmission from Lieutenant Nakamura, whose mechanized unit had been trapped longest and sustained the heaviest casualties. "Enemy mortars are adjusting fire on our position. We have taken additional casualties, and our defensive perimeter is contracting. Time is running out." Maya felt the convergence of multiple tactical timelines as her mission approached the critical decision point where success and failure would be determined by factors largely beyond her control. Her teams were approaching their objectives, but enemy forces were simultaneously preparing to execute attacks that would eliminate the American units they were attempting to save. Captain Thornfield monitored communications from all sources, her expression reflecting growing concern as she tracked the deteriorating situation across multiple locations. The tactical picture showed American forces under increasing pressure, while Maya's unconventional rescue mission remained unproven and untested under actual combat conditions. "Ma'am," Thornfield reported, "enemy radio traffic indicates coordinated attack commencement in approximately 20 minutes. All three trapped units report critical ammunition shortages and mounting casualties from accurate enemy fire. Maya looked at her tactical display, then at the radio frequencies carrying desperate reports from American soldiers who were depending on her ability to coordinate a complex special operations mission under conditions that had never been encountered during her previous 8 years of Ranger service. The operations center doors burst open as General Patricia Voss strode in with the commanding presence of someone accustomed to making life-and-death decisions under extreme pressure. Her arrival sent a ripple of tension through the room as personnel snapped to attention, understanding that the deteriorating tactical situation had drawn the attention of the highest levels of military command. "Report," the general commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who expected immediate and comprehensive briefings on complex tactical situations. Her eyes swept across the operations center, taking in the radio operators, tactical displays, and the obvious stress visible on every face. Major Hawthorne stepped forward, his expression reflecting the weight of explaining a special operations mission being conducted by personnel not officially qualified for such assignments. "Ma'am, we have 3 units trapped by a coordinated enemy ambush. Conventional rescue attempts have failed. Lieutenant Colonel Castellanos has organized an unconventional approach using her special operations background." General Voss turned toward Maya, her expression indicating someone reassessing assumptions about a subordinate she had previously known only as a quiet intelligence analyst. The transformation was remarkable as she observed Maya coordinating multiple radio frequencies with the professional competence of an experienced special operations mission commander. "Castellanos," the general said, her tone carrying both authority and genuine interest in Maya's tactical approach. "Major Hawthorne indicates you have special operations experience that was not reflected in your personnel file. Explain your current mission and your assessment of success probability." Maya felt the weight of general officer scrutiny as she prepared to brief someone whose approval could validate her actions or result in immediate mission termination. The radio chatter from her infiltration teams provided a constant reminder that 9 soldiers were currently executing her tactical plan, while 3 trapped units awaited the outcome of her unconventional approach. "Ma'am," Maya began, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who had committed everything to a single tactical solution. "The enemy has established 3 observation posts that control their entire defensive scheme. I have deployed 3 teams to neutralize these positions simultaneously, eliminating enemy command and control capability and allowing the trapped units to withdraw." General Voss studied the tactical display, her experienced eye recognizing the sophistication of Maya's approach, while also understanding the significant risks associated with executing special operations missions under emergency conditions. The timing requirements and coordination complexity represented exactly the kind of high-stakes tactical solution that separated exceptional officers from conventional thinkers. "What is your background with special operations?" the general asked, her question indicating someone who needed to understand Maya's qualifications before endorsing a mission that could result in additional casualties if executed incorrectly. 8 years with the 75th Ranger Regiment, including 3 years with the Regimental Reconnaissance Company conducting direct action missions, Maya replied, maintaining eye contact with the general while monitoring radio traffic from her teams. "I requested intelligence assignment to avoid continued special operations deployment, but the current tactical situation requires my actual capabilities rather than my assigned speciality." The radio crackled with a transmission from Team Alpha as Sergeant Kozlov reported reaching final assault position at the radio tower complex. His whispered communication indicated successful infiltration despite encountering unexpected enemy positions that had required tactical adaptation during the approach phase. "Alpha leader in position," Kozlov transmitted, his voice barely audible through electronic encryption. "Objective is more heavily defended than anticipated, but we have identified primary targets and are prepared to execute on your command." Team Bravo followed with their status report as Staff Sergeant Brennan confirmed successful positioning at elevation 435 despite significant challenges posed by enemy crew-served weapons and overlapping fields of fire. His Marine sniper training had proven crucial for identifying approach routes that avoided enemy observation while positioning his team for effective assault. Charlie team reported final positioning at the abandoned village, with Sergeant Vasquez confirming that her Rangers had successfully navigated enemy-controlled terrain and were prepared to execute simultaneous assault operations. Her team had encountered the most complex infiltration route, but had demonstrated the tactical flexibility necessary for adapting to unexpected obstacles. General Voss monitored the radio traffic, her expression indicating someone who recognized exceptional tactical coordination under extreme pressure. The mission Maya had planned and was now executing represented exactly the kind of innovative problem-solving that the military needed but rarely encountered among its conventional leadership. The secure telephone rang again as battalion headquarters continued demanding updates on the tactical situation. Rodriguez answered with professional composure, but Maya could see the strain building as he attempted to explain a complex special operations mission to commanders who had not been briefed on the unconventional approach being executed under emergency authority. "Ma'am," Rodriguez reported to General Voss after completing the call, "Battalion headquarters is requesting permission to commit the reserve company to a large-scale rescue operation. They are questioning the current mission approach and expressing concern about additional casualties." Maya felt the convergence of bureaucratic pressure and tactical urgency as higher headquarters attempted to impose conventional solutions on a situation that had already proven resistant to traditional military approaches. Her mission represented the only realistic chance of preventing catastrophic defeat, but it required continued authority to execute without interference from commanders who had not studied the complete tactical picture. General Voss looked at Maya, then at the tactical display showing 3 teams positioned to execute coordinated assaults, then at the radio carrying desperate transmissions from trapped American soldiers who were running out of time and ammunition. Her decision would determine whether Maya's unconventional approach would be allowed to succeed or fail based on its own merits. The radio interrupted with Morrison's most desperate transmission yet, his voice carrying the finality of someone who understood that his unit was approaching the end of their defensive capability. "Enemy forces are beginning final assault preparations. We can observe rocket teams positioning for coordinated attack. This appears to be their decisive effort." Maya checked her watch, calculating the precise timing that would coordinate 3 simultaneous assaults against enemy observation posts while American soldiers prepared for what might be their final defensive action. The moment of truth was approaching rapidly as multiple tactical timelines converged toward success or catastrophic failure. General Voss made her decision with the decisive authority that had characterized her 30-year military career. She looked directly at Maya, her expression conveying complete confidence in the unconventional tactical solution that represented their only realistic chance of preventing catastrophic defeat. "Lieutenant Colonel Castellanos, you have full operational authority to execute your mission," the general announced, her voice carrying the weight of command endorsement that validated Maya's approach despite bureaucratic concerns from higher headquarters. "I will handle battalion and coordinate support as required." Maya felt a surge of professional validation as the general's endorsement removed the administrative obstacles that had threatened to terminate her mission before it could prove its effectiveness. Around the operations center, personnel recognized that they were witnessing something extraordinary as a quiet intelligence analyst received general officer authority to command a complex special operations rescue mission. "All teams, this is Control," Maya transmitted on the command frequency, her voice carrying new authority as she prepared to coordinate the most critical phase of the entire operation. "Stand by for synchronized assault. Time hack will be 0 to 100 hours in 60 seconds. The radio traffic intensified as her 3 team leaders acknowledged the final coordination, each confirming their readiness to execute simultaneous assaults against enemy observation posts that controlled the entire defensive scheme. Maya monitored multiple frequencies, tracking the coordination that would determine whether her tactical solution saved American lives or resulted in additional casualties. Team Alpha reported final target confirmation at the radio tower complex, with Sergeant Kozlov identifying specific enemy positions that needed to be neutralized to eliminate their communications capability. His team had overcome significant infiltration challenges and was positioned to deliver decisive tactical effect against the most technically critical objective. Team Bravo confirmed assault readiness at elevation 435, where Staff Sergeant Brennan had positioned his Marines to attack crew-served weapon positions that commanded observation over the entire valley. His sniper training had proven crucial for identifying specific targets that anchored the enemy's defensive coordination. Charlie Team verified final positioning at the abandoned village, with Sergeant Vasquez reporting that her Rangers were prepared to eliminate enemy command elements that had been coordinating the complex ambush operation. Her team faced the most heavily defended objective, but possessed the tactical experience necessary for success. Time hack, Maya announced, initiating the final countdown that would coordinate 3 simultaneous assaults across several kilometers of enemy-controlled terrain. Mark 0 to 100 hours in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, execute. The night erupted in coordinated violence as Maya's 3 teams executed their assaults with the precision and aggression that defined special operations warfare. Suppressed weapon fire, explosive charges, and the sharp crack of sniper rifles created a symphony of destruction that eliminated enemy observation and coordination capability within the critical 15-minute window Maya had specified. Team Alpha's assault on the radio tower complex succeeded beyond expectations as Kozlov's soldiers neutralized enemy communications equipment and eliminated the spotters who had been directing mortar fire against the trapped American units. Their success immediately reduced enemy coordination capability and degraded their ability to mass fires effectively. Staff Sergeant Brennan's Team Bravo delivered devastating effects against elevation 435, with Marine precision eliminating crew-served weapons that had commanded observation over critical terrain. His sniper expertise proved decisive in identifying and engaging key targets that anchored the enemy's defensive scheme. Charlie Team's assault on the abandoned village resulted in the complete elimination of enemy command elements, with Sergeant Vasquez's Rangers demonstrating the kind of aggressive tactical execution that had made them legendary within special operations circles. Their success destroyed enemy coordination capability and created tactical confusion that would prove decisive. The immediate effects of Maya's coordinated assault became apparent as radio traffic from the trapped units changed dramatically. Morrison reported that enemy mortar fire had become sporadic and inaccurate, indicating loss of observation capability that had previously made their defensive positions untenable. "Control, this is Morrison," the captain transmitted, his voice carrying new hope as he recognized the tactical shift that Maya's mission had created. "Enemy fires have decreased significantly, and their coordination appears disrupted. We are observing confusion in their forward positions." Lieutenant Nakamura confirmed similar observations from his trapped mechanized unit, reporting that enemy forces were repositioning without apparent coordination and that the pressure on his defensive perimeter had decreased dramatically. The elimination of enemy observation posts had created tactical opportunities that had not existed since the initial ambush. "Bravo 6, this is Bravo 2-6, Nakamura reported, his transmission carrying the relief of someone who had expected to be overrun within minutes. Enemy forces appear to be withdrawing from advanced positions. Their coordinated assault appears to have been canceled or postponed. Maya coordinated the extraction of her assault teams, while simultaneously directing the withdrawal of the trapped units through routes that were no longer under enemy observation. The tactical situation that had appeared hopeless 30 minutes earlier was transforming into a controlled extraction that would save American lives and preserve combat capability. General Voss monitored the radio traffic with obvious satisfaction, recognizing that Maya's unconventional approach had achieved tactical success where conventional methods had failed completely. The Special Operations mission had not only saved 3 trapped units, but had demonstrated the kind of innovative tactical thinking that separated exceptional officers from conventional commanders. All teams, this is Control, Maya transmitted as she coordinated the complex extraction that would consolidate her tactical success. Withdraw to designated rally points and prepare for movement to extraction zones. Mission success confirmed across all objectives. The operations center erupted in controlled celebration as personnel recognized that Maya's mission had transformed potential catastrophe into tactical victory. The quiet intelligence analyst who had spent 18 months avoiding operational responsibility had just demonstrated why the Ranger Regiment had considered her one of their most effective mission planners. Maya felt the satisfaction of tactical success, combined with the relief that came from saving American lives through professional competence and innovative problem-solving. Her carefully maintained anonymity had ended permanently, but the cost had been worth paying to prevent the loss of 3 American units that conventional rescue attempts had been unable to save. The first evacuated casualties arrived at the base medical facility within 40 minutes of Maya's coordinated assault, their successful extraction representing a tactical victory that few had believed possible when the crisis began. Captain Morrison walked under his own power despite minor shrapnel wounds, his expression carrying the relief of someone who had expected to die defending an untenable position. Lieutenant Nakamura's mechanized unit returned with battle damage, but no additional casualties, their Bradley fighting vehicles bearing scars from the prolonged engagement, but testament to American engineering and crew training. The soldiers who dismounted carried themselves with the quiet confidence of veterans who had survived a coordinated enemy ambush through tactical innovation rather than conventional firepower. Maya stood in the operations center, monitoring the final extraction reports while coordinating with medical personnel and unit commanders who were processing the successful rescue of 3 trapped American units. The tactical display that had shown desperate isolated positions now displayed consolidated friendly forces moving through secure terrain toward base facilities. General Voss approached Maya with obvious respect for someone whose unconventional tactical approach had transformed potential disaster into remarkable success. The quiet intelligence analyst who had spent 18 months avoiding attention had just demonstrated exceptional operational capability under the most demanding circumstances imaginable. Outstanding work, Lieutenant Colonel, the general said, her tone carrying the professional admiration of someone who recognized exceptional military competence when she encountered it. Your tactical solution saved American lives and demonstrated exactly the kind of innovative thinking our military needs. Maya felt the weight of recognition settling on her shoulders, understanding that her careful anonymity had ended permanently, but that the cost had been worthwhile to prevent catastrophic casualties. Around the operations center, personnel who had viewed her as a quiet analyst now recognized her as the special operations veteran whose expertise had proved decisive under extreme pressure. Major Hawthorne extended his hand to Maya, his expression reflecting genuine respect for someone whose capabilities he had dramatically underestimated for 18 months. His earlier dismissal of her tactical assessments had been replaced by obvious appreciation for the professional competence that had saved his soldiers when conventional approaches had failed. "I owe you an apology, Castellanos," Hawthorne said, his voice carrying the humility of someone who had learned an important lesson about making assumptions based on appearances. "Your tactical expertise saved 3 units that would have been lost if we had continued with conventional rescue operations." Captain Thornfield approached Maya with obvious admiration for someone whose analytical capabilities had extended far beyond anything she had previously encountered in routine intelligence work. The sophisticated tactical assessments Maya had provided made perfect sense in retrospect, given her extensive special operations background and combat experience. "Ma'am," Thornfield said, her tone carrying both respect and curiosity about Maya's remarkable transformation from analyst to mission commander. "Will you be returning to special operations assignments, or will you continue in intelligence work?" Maya considered the question, understanding that her demonstrated capabilities would inevitably result in assignment opportunities that matched her actual qualifications rather than her preferred anonymity. The successful rescue mission had validated her tactical expertise, but had also ensured that future assignments would reflect her special operations background. The radio crackled with the final status report from Sergeant Kozlov, whose Team Alpha had completed their withdrawal from the radio tower complex without casualties despite executing the most technically challenging assault of the entire operation. His professional competence had proved crucial for neutralizing enemy communications capability that had coordinated the sophisticated ambush. Control. This is Alpha Leader, Kozlov transmitted, his voice carrying the satisfaction of successful mission completion. All team members accounted for and moving to extraction point. Objective completely destroyed with no friendly casualties. Staff Sergeant Brennan and Sergeant Vasquez reported similar success from their respective teams, confirming that Maya's coordinated assault had achieved complete tactical success across all three objectives. The elimination of enemy observation posts had not only saved the trapped units, but had disrupted the broader enemy operation and prevented additional ambushes. The secure telephone rang with calls from battalion and brigade headquarters, senior commanders who needed to understand how a potential catastrophe had been transformed into tactical victory through the actions of an intelligence analyst who had revealed herself to be a decorated special operations veteran with exceptional mission planning capabilities. Rodriguez handled the administrative coordination with obvious pride in Maya's accomplishment, his earlier casual familiarity replaced by professional respect for someone whose true capabilities had proved far beyond what anyone had recognized during 18 months of routine analytical work. General Voss reviewed the after-action reports that were already being compiled, recognizing that Maya's mission would become a case study in innovative tactical problem-solving and the importance of utilizing personnel based on actual capabilities rather than assigned specialties. The successful rescue represented exactly the kind of adaptive leadership the military needed. The operations center began returning to normal activity as the immediate crisis passed, but Maya understood that her role would never again be the quiet anonymity she had cultivated for 18 months. Her demonstrated capabilities under extreme pressure had established her reputation as someone who could deliver tactical solutions when conventional approaches failed. If you enjoyed the story, please drop a comment and let us know your favorite moment or character, or share if you've witnessed similar situations where someone's hidden expertise saved the day in your community. Maya looked at the tactical display one final time, seeing friendly forces consolidated and accounted for rather than the desperate isolated positions that had defined the crisis only hours earlier. Her transition from intelligence analyst to special operations mission commander had been complete and permanent, but the successful rescue of American soldiers made the personal cost worthwhile. The quiet professional who had spent months avoiding operational responsibility had just proven that exceptional tactical expertise, combined with innovative thinking, could overcome seemingly impossible odds. General Voss had witnessed the emergence of exactly the kind of military leader needed for complex operational challenges that required unconventional solutions. Maya gathered her equipment and prepared to brief the detailed after-action review that would analyze every aspect of her mission, understanding that her anonymity had ended, but that American soldiers were alive because she had been willing to reveal capabilities she had spent 18 months carefully concealing. The tactical victory belonged to everyone who had executed the mission, but the innovative approach that made success possible had emerged from her unique combination of analytical expertise and special operations experience.